That is amazing.
There you have it.
Wow. Nothing was said to this man, William Stillman, in the house. I have got goosebumps, and everything he said is point on.
Hello, William Stillman, psychic medium. I am near Sharpsburg, Maryland today at the Antietam battlefield, and I am very much looking forward to my time with local expert and historian Robert Murphy. So, Bob, as I was driving here, as I had mentioned to you, I was hearing drums, and then as we were pulling in here, it occurred to me that the drums aren't musical necessarily, that the drums are also a form of communication. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. And so there would be, forgive my ignorance, I don't know anything about drumming, but that there would be different, I want to say tones or different ways in which the drums would be struck that would be a call to action, for example, or other forms of communication that would have military significance.
Very true.
Correct? Thank you.
Correct.
Okay. Would you elaborate on that just a little bit for me?
By book and by regulation, the infantry, cavalry, and artillery were allowed musicians embedded in those units.
Yes.
Very
so
much
what
so.
I'm being shown is almost the drumming in some respects, and you correct me if this is inaccurate, served as analogous to Morse code almost.
It's a signaling.
It's a signal. Yeah, it's a communication.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there are over 200 separate drum calls.
Very interesting to me. Thank you.
That must be learned. And
That's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, where we are standing, and we're on the grounds of a beautiful farm, and I had asked you previously if this house had been here at the time, and you said yes. But where we're standing now, I would be able to hear the drums.
Certainly.
Correct? Okay, thank you. And you had wanted to walk along the fence line here, so let's do that.
Sure.
When I'm intuiting information of a psychic nature, I'm getting it a number of ways. I would be hearing the drums as we're almost like we're getting closer. And it's basically an expansion or a magnification of all the senses. I'm smelling gunpowder also in the air. And that would be close to where we are, correct?
Correct.
So I am receiving visual imagery in the form of pictures, movies, words, phrases, sometimes names. Now I'm also hearing what sounds like thunder, but I'm not sure it's thunder.
It's not thunder.
So I'm assuming that these are cannons that are going off, if that would make sense. And again, I'm feeling like everything is sort of getting louder the further in we're walking, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I may be caused to feel something physically. I may be caused to smell, hear, or taste something. Because I have to tell you, it feels to me like it's very, very intense and very compacted. So it feels like a lot happened in a short period of time, if that would make sense to you.
That's spot on.
And I just want to remind folks that I'm completely ignorant to the history. This is why we have an expert with us. And I know there was a battle at Antietam, but that's all I know. So I'm just going based upon what I'm being shown and what's being dictated to me intuitively.
The cornfield was one of the deadliest sites at Antietam. It is here where Bill receives one of his first readings of the day. Unbeknownst to him, Bill is standing on the very field where thousands of Union and Confederate soldiers first converged.
So the cannons, to your knowledge, would they have been near to where we are standing?
Yes.
Because I'm feeling it under my feet. I'm feeling the ground shake under my feet.
Confederates occupy the high ground around the cornfield. They unleash destructive artillery fire onto the oncoming Union soldiers. Union General Joseph Hooker responds by using his own artillery against the Confederates. Some aptly call it artillery hell.
It's just total chaos, I have to tell you. And the other reason why I asked is because I'm seeing body parts on the ground. Gosh, I'm just hearing it. Again, the ground is shaking under my feet, almost like an earthquake type sensation. And lots of, I'm being told to say vapors, so, which is an interesting word. Smoke, haze, yeah. I'm being shown the word general connected to someone of importance who would have been about where we're standing. Is that correct?
Could be.
All right. And I feel like there's a G name connected to someone of significance.
How about George Meade?
I'll take it. Was he a general?
Yes, he certainly was.
And would he have been here?
His part of his division advanced to this spot, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Promoted to a division command at the outset of the battle, General George Meade played a crucial role in Antietam. His troops were one of the first soldiers to enter the now iconic cornfield.
Behind us was an orchard on a high ground where the generals would have purveyed the area and sent their troops to.
All right, so he would have been within walking distance from where we are now.
General George Meade would end up being in complete control of all federal forces by 1863. He ousted General Robert E. Lee and the Confederate Army at Gettysburg, which would be a turning point in the war.
He made comments about the name George where we were standing, close to the Miller farmhouse and the orchard. Lots of Georges, I'm sure. It's a common name. But in that particular spot, there would have been an advance observation post in the orchard at the Miller farm that was occupied by Joe Hooker and his subordinates, his division commanders, one of which being George Meade. Not so coincidental at that spot. If that had been any other place on the battlefield, it would have been harder to understand what George, but at that particular time and spot with his comments, it got my attention, let's put it that way.
I'm also feeling like we're at or near what to me feels like a line of demarcation, and that keeps shifting. So I'm feeling as though there's no permanency to any of it,
Yes.
and that depending upon the advancement or the retreat, that line of demarcation keeps getting shifted around, if that would make any sense.
Yes.
I feel as though no one emerges victorious here.
Interesting.
Why is that interesting to you?
The advance of the Federals, the Union, came down this way and was pushed back. Confederates pushed this way and were pushed back, so it's back and forth. And at the end of the day, even by lunchtime or so, there's nobody holding this ground officially, so it is a back and forth.
That's very interesting.
One of his first comments were that the fighting or the activity seemed to go back and forth. That's the number one thinking process that you have to have when you talk about the cornfield, especially, because back and forth pretty much tells the tale. Advance by the Federals and counter advances by the Confederates back and forth through the corn, where most of the scholars and the folks that study this place will not settle in on one number of how many times it actually did change hands. So that was very interesting. His knowledge of the place was non-existent when he got here.
So there were two men of high ranking that lost their lives here.
At least.
I'm being shown two specifically of higher ranking, and I want to say it's not far from where we're standing.
Very possible.
One happened at or under or near a tree, and I'm also being told that there are trees that have since been cleared from the property. That may be a lot of minutia to try to verify, but that's what I'm seeing, is these two different men losing their lives. One of them was hit multiple times correct?
Yeah, certainly.
6 brigadier and major generals were killed or mortally wounded during the Battle of Antietam. 2 of those generals died at Ornia Miller's cornfield. Union Major General Joseph K. F. Mansfield and Confederate Brigadier General William E. Stock. Brigadier General Stock was shot 3 times while leading a counterattack. He would die within the hour.
You can't possibly pinpoint all the horror that happened here. This is the northern edge of the Miller cornfield. This is the bloody cornfield. That's one of the terms of the Civil War that needs no other description. This was back and forth by both sides, the Federals heading north or south, and then being pushed back. It changed hands more times than you can imagine.
So that's what I was getting connected to the line of demarcation
Changes.
getting pushed around.
Yeah, that's how quickly
it's very
this-
confusing, I have to tell you. It's just total chaos.
I've studied this battle in detail for 20 years, and I still can't say that I know it all because it was so confusing. And it was total chaos with a lot of new people that had never done this before. Well done.
I'm hearing the word retreat connected to the place where we are.
Here eventually, yes.
Yes, that there's someone shouting or calling for that.
Eventually.
I'm also wondering, I'm seeing the word truce.
Truce?
As in a surrender.
Well,
So I'm seeing a white flag.
the truces, well, there were a few of these. There were prisoners taken here. The Federals took over 300 prisoners in this stretch of the field here, but I don't know if they would have had time to unfurl a white flag.
I'm also being pulled, Bob, past here. So I feel almost like I'm being pulled to the hillside beyond us.
The big hill.
And yeah, the one that's visible from where we are. And I almost feel like it's I don't know if it would have been occupied in any way or if there would have been encampments there, but I almost feel like it's a vantage point or a lookout point.
Very good. How about
Is
a
that
signal?
correct?
How about a signal station?
I'll take it.
That's Elk Ridge.
Right here?
Along that ridge, just past the tower, was a signal tower.
So when I was seeing the flag being waved, would there have been a flag that would have been waved?
That would have been a white flag with a red dot or a red square.
Surrender, the white flag of surrender. It's what I was being shown.
That's a signal flag.
So at that time, it would have also been, the contrast against the hill would have made it much
Certainly.
more visible, correct?
Because there's a lot less trees on that hill at that time. So it very much, and they built a platform 20 feet in the air, 25 feet in the air to get elevated to be seen to the receiving stations.
I'm also wondering if from what did you say, it was the Elk Ridge?
Elk Ridge?
If there would have been the use of telescopes
Sure.
up there,
Sure.
because I'm seeing that as well, looking down.
On that ridge was George McClellan's temporary headquarters at the Pry Farm. They were watching from that vantage point through telescopes for most of the morning up until almost 2 in the afternoon.
Now, I need to ask
Okay.
if, I can't tell if it's a V or a W, but it's connected to one such man that would have been up on the ridge. Now, I might really
Now
be
you're stretching.
pressing you here, but I would be fascinated to know if you could make that connection.
I'll look into that.
Thank you.
A signal system using flags and torches was invented by a U.S. Army surgeon, Major Albert Meyer, and adopted by the U.S. Army in 1860. To the untrained observer, the flagman appeared to be merely waving a white flag back and forth. This new flag-waving system was lovingly coined wigwag by the troops who saw this first in action. Could this be what Bill was picking up on with the white flags and the letter W?
I'm not sure if we were on video at the time, but walking down here, I felt like I was sidestepping a lot of horse manure.
Yes. Well,
So there would have been a lot of horses here.
yes, yes.
I feel so badly for those poor animals because it's interesting because the horses were a lot like the people. You had some that were very heroic, and there may have even been horses here that had served in similar capacity elsewhere, which is interesting to me. And then you had some that were not prepared for this at all, were not cut out for this at all.
Yes.
Yeah, very interesting. I have to ask, and I'm almost looking for a monument, if there's a monument of a man on a horse. I'm wondering if there's a story, some sort of story about the heroism of a horse, or something about a famous horse while we're on the topic. I just want to bring that up. But is there any, to your knowledge, any anecdotal stories about the heroism of a horse, a specific horse? I'm being shown the word war horse, that's why I'm asking.
Several horses were stuffed. I think that Meade's horse was stuffed and put on a museum. I'm not quite, I don't want to say where or when, but...
That's interesting to me.
An estimated 1 to 3 million horses died during the war. Of one, became an important representation to the unsung heroes of the war. On September 19th, photographer Alexander Gardner took this photograph of a solitary dead horse lying on the fields of Antietam days after its death. The basic facts behind the photograph are well documented. The horse's owner was Colonel Henry B. Strong. Colonel Strong was killed in one of the first exchanges of gunfire. Mortally wounded by the same blast, his cream-colored mount sank to the ground on all fours and turned his head as it fell, as if falling asleep. The horse lay dead on the field for days, alone. Passing observers, burial details, and civilians looked upon this horse for days, becoming a sort of memorial for all the dead. Before finally being removed from the field, Gardner took this snapshot of this now famous horse. This haunting photograph has become one of the most impactful images of the Civil War.
I feel as though standing here, there's a convergence coming from different directions and meeting in the center. So it feels like I'm looking at a movie and I'm seeing men running. And they're running, and then there's a clash. There's a central clash that meets in the center. And it's just, again, complete and total chaos.
Yes.
Complete chaos. And it's, again, I've seen this before at other sites, but it's sort of like the playbook gets thrown out the window because of the unexpected twists and turns that the battle takes in its trajectory.
Yes.
If that would make sense to you. I'm being shown the word trench. So I don't know if it almost feels as though there was some thought given to, it's almost like a form of camouflage where from the vantage point of an approaching troop, a row of men would not have been seen because of the geography. So they would have been in a trench or in a depressed area. And from the vantage point of someone approaching, they wouldn't be seen until, I want to say sneak attack, until there was a surprise attack. Or it would have been unexpected.
For those advancing.
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Yes.
Without a doubt.
Are we near to the spot where that would have happened?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Like right on top of it?
Part of it.
It feels like it's very close. And I'm also feeling the rumbling under my feet again.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm assuming that is cannon fire also. Boy, is this brutal.
The sunken road saw one of the most gruesome fighting in the battle. The Confederates holding the ground surprised the incoming Union troops as the geography of the land hid them from sight. Nevertheless, the Union inflicts 1,700 casualties on the Confederates who were holding the road despite the ambush-like tactics.
I just was shown the phrase birds of prey.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm being shown birds then in the aftermath of the battle circling over the battlefield.
Yes.
And it's kind of gruesome.
Yes, it is.
I have to say.
Yes, it is.
Turkey vultures.
Yep.
I'm being told to say.
Mm-hmm.
Are there actual photographs that exist of them on the ground here? I'm being told. Being told during the survey of the aftermath.
Not from here at Sharpsburg. None that have survived. There's many photos that didn't survive for damage and fire and breakage, but the ones that have survived, I've never seen a photo here at Sharpsburg with a vulture out in the battle.
Newspaper sketch artist Frank Schell was on the field for the battle on September 17th. In this sketch for Frank Leslie's illustrated newspaper, he captures images of turkey vultures as they scour the battlefield from above, amidst the field of the dead.
I was just curious of what you were picking up here. I bring folks on tours of this place, this spot,
It's terrible. It's
and
awful.
they will not come down.
It's awful stuff. It's really very, very intense.
Yes.
And again, like the cornfield, complete and utter chaos.
Yes.
Complete and utter chaos. I'm also wondering if in that complete and utter chaos, there were men who accidentally killed members of their own troop,
Yes.
because that's what I'm being shown.
Yes.
Almost like a friendly fire type
Yep.
of situation,
Mhm.
because I'm seeing just so much smoke and haze and again confusion. There are people here that are panicking. Adrenaline is running high. People are making errors in judgment as a result of all of that. People who are perhaps far less seasoned or experienced. Yeah. It's awful stuff, certainly. I'm just getting quick flashes of it.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to see more than that, to be honest with you.
Well, that portion of we're at the Bloody Lane. We're at Sunken Road. And the far left of this position where we're at, the first Federals to advance from the northern part of the field heading south run into Robert Rhodes and his Alabama Brigade. The surprise that you mentioned were on the part of the Federals that didn't know this road existed, evidently didn't know it was manned with 2 lines of infantry and with some artillery in the back. So that was the surprise.
Yes.
Then there's 2 things you do. You drop down facing the ground, or you run the other way, and they ran into troops coming the other way. Confusion and friendly fire happened at that end of the field down there.
Very interesting.
Yeah. A lot of these troops are new. That brigade of William French was brand new, thrown together just days before this, and the rookies were leading the charge or the march. We had inexperienced troops surprised by Confederate veterans. Total chaos.
Was there anyone here of prominence or significance associated with New York?
Well, certainly. Well, prominent New Yorker, Thomas Francis Maher. He commanded the 69th New York right here, and part of he had the Irish Brigade in total command, but he took singular command of the 69th New York right behind us,
Really?
right here.
Because I was shown the words New York.
Yep.
That's why I'm asking.
Yep.
New
New
There
York.
was one right near to where we are.
Yes, right behind.
Very interesting.
I've had people on tours that would not go down into the lane because of their thoughts of stress and their dread and their feelings when they got to the place. Some general thoughts of the noise, the rumbling, the sound of thunder that shook the ground, chaos. That's of all wars, of course, but in that concentrated spot, it's pretty well spot on. Like I said, being a confirmed skeptic takes a lot to shake me. That's the road right in front of us, between the Miller barn and the house. just up past where those people are riding the bikes. Across that way is the woods, open field woods, and then the new bypass. But I'm walking down there one day and it was a beautiful, calm, cloudy day. And I like cloudy days, but they're calm and quiet. I'm walking down there, and if there's one thing I know, the sound of a drum.
I was just going to ask about have drums ever been heard out here?
I did. Now, if you look up skeptic in the dictionary, there's my picture again. But I'm telling you, I stopped and I listened and I fumbled for my phone to get a sound bite of that, I guess. But I heard about 5 different run-throughs of a cadence, a real rudimental, something like a 12-year-old would be learning to play.
And it wasn't like the local high school band or anything?
There's nothing on the other side's a farm. There's never anybody there. The highway, and in that field or in the trees, I came back, got the car, and went through there, and there's nobody there. It's not a reenactment day. It was in the middle of the week. There's no campments here. And if there's one thing I know, is what a sound of a rope tension snare drum sounds like.
And how would you know that, Bob?
Well, because I happen to be a drummer.
So that's amazing that I was hearing drums driving here, and then we're pulling in and I'm hearing the drums. And as you're telling the story, I'm wondering, did anybody hear drums?
Well, first of all, in my estimation, drums were the linchpin and the most important aspect of the Civil War, as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.